Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to the worst reviews ever. I got Amazing in the building, and we got Casey Fred, the WWE champ. So
Yeah.
explain that. What's that belt for, man?
Hey, that W we got up in Germany. So I want to give a shout out to all my people in Frankfurt. What's up? That's it. That's it. Chiefs, baby, all day, every day. That's right. Super Bowl champs. That's it. That's it. So yeah, I want to let everybody know what time it is. So that's all.
So you think they go pull it
Top
off
of the AFC,
again this year?
hey, we on top of the AFC. Hey, we the Super Bowl champs. We got to make our rounds, you know.
Mm.
Got to buy this week, so everybody else gets to go ahead and slave. But you know, we putting the work in, baby. Even over in other countries, you know what I'm saying? We're putting the work in. So yeah, that's it.
I ain't gonna lie, man. If y'all pull it off this year, I'm gonna have to stop hating on y'all, man. I'm gonna just have to, pay respect, man, because they pulled it off too many times. So yeah, if they win this year, man, I'm gonna stop hating on y'all. I'm gonna bow down at that moment, man. If y'all lose, oh, KC, you might want to take off like about a good month because I'm gonna be cooking them. You better just like miss out, call out sick, whatever. Because yeah, I'm roasting them.
We got two belts. We're just gonna keep it going. That's how we do it. That's what we gonna do. Yeah, but I want to make sure I represent. That's all, you know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm about to hit up Chiefs. I'm gonna let him know, like, hey man, he's repping y'all hard, man. I'm going in on y'all, but he's holding it down for KC. They gonna at least get you a deal or something. Call up your boy Patrick Mahomes and stuff. Like, hey man, get him something. Yeah. You'd be like, what's his name? That one guy that for the NBA team, Clipper Darrell for the LA Clippers. Yeah. They ain't won shit. He be out the game. It's like, man, y'all need to get my man a check or something.
Definitely. Yeah.
But all right, we'll go ahead and get started. So let me pull up the slides and I'll go ahead and read them since Manic ain't here today. All right. So Old Dads. That's the movie that we're going to review today. So Old Dads is a 2023 American comedy film directed by Bill Burr in his directorial debut, who produced and co-wrote with Ben Tisler. I'm botching this up. Gotta get my screen bigger. All right. So the summary of the movie: three best friends, Bill Burr, Bobby Cavell, Bokeem Woodbine, become fathers later in life and find themselves battling preschool principals, millennial COs, and anything created after 1987. So, all right, we'll go ahead and jump into the directors and the producers. So, again, this movie was directed by Bill Burr. It was written by Bill Burr and Ben Tisler. Then on the produced by, we had Monica Levinson, Ben again, Bill Block, Bill Burr again, and Mike Bertolina. Butchering these names up. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump into the cast section. Y'all be doing me dirty. I'm gonna start making y'all butcher some of these names. So, all right, the cast for the movie was Bill Burr as Jack Kelly, Bobby Cannavale as Connor Brody, Bokeem Woodbine as Mike Richards, and thank God they let my man shave his head bald. They didn't do him dirty like that other movie we watched when he was in. My man's hairline was like halfway in his head. So, shout out to Bill Burr and them doing them right. Katie Asselton as Lee Kelly, and she was actually in the last movie we just reviewed. You know, as the wife in that movie.
Right.
What was that? Synchronic.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was the wife in that one too. So it seemed like she must be blowing up because yeah, I've been seeing her in a lot of stuff. She was in that TV show. I know I mentioned it last time. The one where they did the fake, the fake what they call it, the football. Where you pick your fantasy football league. So yeah, I forgot the name of the show, but man, it was funny as hell. The League, that's what it was called, The League. So she definitely had a big role in that. So definitely great actress. You know, she does a lot of comedy and I see her in more serious movies. So Rain Edwards as Brittany, Jackie Ton as Kara Brody, Miles Robinson as Aspen Bell, Rachel Harris as Dr. Louise Turner, Dash McLeod as Nate Kelly, Justin Miles as Travis Romaine, and Thomas Howell is Ed Cameron. So, all right, man, we'll go ahead and jump into the ratings for this movie. So, all right, amazing. What would you rate this movie as?
I'd give it a 6.5.
All right, so amazing. Got this in the good territory. Casey Fred, what's your rating for the movie?
I just gave it a 6.
Okay, so Casey Fred has it in between average and good, and I'll put it at about like I say I had it at 7, between good and very good. So I guess I'm the outlier, and Casey Fred is the other one. So Casey Fred, we'll go to you first. So why did you give it just a 6, between the average and good?
I just
Mhm.
I I don't know. I just it took a while to be able to get into the movie. Um and Bill Burr, he was doing his best. And I love the simple fact that it was three guys and how their friendship, you show how their lives are all totally different, but they lean on each other throughout the whole movie. And the reality of it is all three of them have a lot of lessons, life lessons to learn. And they learn more about themselves and how of a sudden they it's amazing. You can accept yourself, but does the world accept you? And so they were finding out that, yo, where I am right now, I don't know if all of a sudden I can still have what I want and be all that I'm supposed to be if I keep going down this road. So I felt like there was a lot of growing pains for all of them. And so I don't know. I thought it sometimes I even thought this was a adult ABC special going on around here. So because you can easily get offended if you wasn't a male, that's for sure, in this movie. So, but yeah, I mean, there were some good parts, but then some of it was a little rough around the edges. But I thought it was decent. I think that's the best word I can definitely say for it. So that's the reason why I pretty much gave it a 6.
All right, I'll go ahead and give my breakdown since I was the other outlier. So I gave it a 7, which was between like good and very good. And one of the reasons I say I rated it, in that range was because I thought some of the story was relatable. Of course, being comedy, you got to go over the top. But I think, man, first of all, I'm a big Bill Burr fan. To me, he's one of the best comedians. So I'm just, a big fan of his, anyways. So I'm glad, he got his director role, and I just thought, man, the plot was pretty relatable overall because it introduced a lot of dynamics as far as like it seemed like the guys had the midlife crisis, the new age parenting styles, and then, society being a little soft, like they don't tolerate anything, it's like cancel culture. So, I think that he had a lot of like layers that he introduced in the new movie, with comedy. Towards the end, I think it did kind of like tell off, a little bit, but overall, I thought it was pretty funny for, like definitely a Netflix movie that they put together and stuff like that. Could have been stronger, like you said. I think if they would have probably had more time or a bigger budget, definitely would have probably been better. But I thought it was like a pretty funny movie. All right, we'll go ahead and go to Amazing to break down her rating.
I mean, I agree with both of you. I think it was funny. I thought some pieces were just a little over the top, which is why I didn't rate it more. But I thought it was a good mix of, in my opinion, um, delusional men and like women shown like to the very very extreme of annoyingness. Like I thought you had both of those aspects from the one mom that I thought was completely crazy, and it kind of showed that extreme from a female side, but then it also showed to me like some of the delusional side, which I would say from the male side. So I did like the way it mixed both of those up. I just thought some of it was definitely over the top. And I do like Bill Burr too. He's a little vulgar, I guess, for like my taste. So I thought some of that was over the top, but I also know that's just like the way his comedy style. So
But I think it was warranted in this movie. So who you think, Amazing? Who you think was a little more delusional, or which side was a little more delusional? Would you say
I
versus?
thought Mike, honestly. To me, he was like the most delusional man. But to me, the funny piece of it is it was like delusion based off, I feel like conversations sometimes I feel like men have. Like it was delusional, but it's also like real, which made it hilarious to me. Like, see, you idiots, like, why do you believe this? Like they're showing you right here. So I almost felt like it was a tip for men. Like if like I feel like a lot of men think they're Mike. Um and it don't work out for you. So I need the men to look at that and know like all of you think you're Mike and all of you are going to be in that situation. You don't have the unicorn if that's what you're thinking.
Nah, I agree with you. That's why I like Bill Burr's like comedy specials, because if you actually watch his comedy, he introduced like a lot of like real life topics. You know, he is vulgar, but that's why I kind of like him too, because he be going off. But you know, he knows how to put those like real life scenarios that people don't want to touch and talk about. And you know, he's like, okay, I'll go ahead and touch it for everybody so we can start this conversation. So I think I love how he introduced like all three guys did have like their dynamics. They were like delusional, like you said, to a certain extent, but it was playing out like on the female side too. So I like how he did capture the sides. But no, that's why
Well,
I
and
had to ask you. Oh, go ahead.
I think some people need like it to me it's kind of sad that you have to be that straightforward with some people for them to like get it. But it's just it's an extreme, but it is like I definitely got some like really good laughs out of it when he was saying it. It was, you know, it was just vulgar. It was vulgar, but it was funny. I'll give him that.
All right, so we'll go ahead and jump into the open discussion questions. And yeah, I want to circle back to this a little bit. I know it's gonna come out because yeah, talk about that delusion. You can elaborate on Mike. So going around on the first question, would you recommend this movie to anyone? And go to you first, Amazing.
Yeah, I would recommend it with probably if people didn't know who Bill Burr was, I'd probably give them a little like warning warning. But I would recommend it.
All right, Casey, Fred, would you recommend this movie to anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was like I said, uh, I definitely would think all men would need to see this because in so many ways, all of them had to grow up. I mean, it was like all of them had to see where they were, and it's just you got to move with the times. You got to be able to love who you love, and I just thought it was really cool. The process of watching all three of them, and then the bond that they had. So yeah, I would recommend it to. I mean, to everybody, but definitely the men for sure. And then if you love comedy and Bill Burr, then definitely watch it.
Yeah, I definitely would recommend it because, like I said, I'm just like being a big Bill Burr fan. Yeah, I definitely would recommend it, and also just like the life dynamics, like you mentioned. So jumping into the second question, would you ever watch this movie again? I'll go ahead and kick it off. I definitely will watch it again. Casey, Fred, would you watch this movie again?
Yeah, I mean, I will watch it again because, like I said, there was a lot of good parts to it. So,
All right, Amazing. Would you watch this movie again?
Yeah, I would watch it again, and I actually feel like it would be like super fun to watch it with guys that believe some of this nonsense, just like to point it out. Like, see, you think that is real, don't you? Like on different parts. Like if I had
Why?
some like young nephews or something, I'd be like, okay, if I had, I'd say young nephews or like older uncles. Like, okay, I need both of these generations to watch this movie. So hopefully you'll get a little taste of like real life.
Yeah, no, that would be a good aspect. So, okay, we'll jump into the third question. What did you think about the plot or the storyline? And we'll go to Casey, Fred on that first.
I thought the storyline was pretty good. It's about, you know, um, three guys, definitely three guys that, I mean, they have a business and, and their lives are all different, but at the same time, they're dealing with things that of the now, but how they're handling it is totally what's cracking everyone up because it's not what you expect. And they're so used to their way, and because they're older and not younger, it's just like it's just funny because oh, we don't do that, we don't do that, and they kept being told no and no and no, and they're like, no, I like it my way, I want to say it my way, I want to do things my way, and and every time they was getting pushback on it, and so they had to fight through their issues, their problems, situations. I mean, one of the funniest things to me was them getting fired and they didn't know they was getting fired. And I mean, that's actually one of the scenes I would love to be able to talk about because I mean the privacy law and how all of a sudden next thing you know they didn't even know when they was in the rental car, and they're getting you know that's the very thing that they thought was private and they could be able to talk in their own vehicle and be able to have a good time on the road, and that's the very thing that all of a sudden got them canned and kicked out. And so I don't know, I just thought that the Bill Burr did a good job as far as like you were saying, Jerk, about all the different problems and situations and what do you do here and how do you all of a sudden change and grow and develop and become better for it. And so I liked it. And then um yeah, I keep talking about it, but yeah, I enjoyed it, and I thought he did a good job, especially all the actors really.
All right, amazing. What did you think about the plot or storyline?
Again, I did like the aspect of just like these three middle-aged guys, who kind of were like super good friends. They had this company, they're all kind of going through like the midlife crisis type stuff, but then you bring in little children, tie back to the title of old dads. And it seemed like they were really, because I know they referenced somebody's age at 49 and somebody's age at 51. So you knew they were kind of right around 49, 50, 51 is what I was thinking. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I can't even imagine having a newborn baby in my early 40s, let alone in my 50s. So I was just like but it happens. Like I literally have people, it's funny because I had seen something, it was like a meme, but it was like 40s are crazy because you have some friends with grandchildren and you could have other friends with toddlers and then you have some friends with both. And so I think again bringing this movie back, back in like this is real life stuff that is happening. So it did just it brought in comedy with friendship, and even with their how they kind of had a falling out. And friends argue, but they came back together and really, helped each other out. So I liked all of that stuff, but it was just again the humor brought into extremes on both sides. But I thought the extreme personally, I thought that was more I thought the extreme scenario was more on kind of the woman's side, as far as like the principal, she was super extreme, the crazy mom. I can't think of what the one man's wife. She was super extreme, but then so I thought like the extremes were definitely on the females, but then the
What do you mean by
delusional
extremes?
like the one guy, I don't remember his name, but the mom who had like the really bad kid and she was like letting him scream it out and hit people and giving him the stick. Like that was an extreme. I'm you hear stories like that, but
That's regular
that was
parenting
extreme.
nowadays.
That was that was an extreme.
No, it wasn't.
Um and even the principal, like, I need you to publicly apologize. Like that was like super extreme. But I kind of think it was like that stereotype that women will get. But then you go to the man side, and that's where the delusions came in. So
This
to
is
me, it
definitely
was like
biased. I'm a cook. I'll let you go though. I'm gonna let you live. But
it was humorous on both sides, but to me, it was kind of extreme. Like, you don't know any moms that actually give their kid the stick and, like punch a pregnant lady in the belly and it's like, it's okay. But you definitely know men that think like they're like God to women. So I feel like that's where the
the
delusion
biasness is just coming through the screen.
But yeah, so that's why I like the storyline because it just brought in so many aspects of just real life conversations, what's going on, but it brought in that humor piece to
All right. What did I think about the plot or the storyline?
it.
No, I actually liked it. I mean, the guys were delusional, and then the parenting styles was, they definitely like hyping it up a little bit, but I like how he captured that. I hear so many parents talking about like, because I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and I'm like, hey man, y'all know like kids were around since like 200 BC, man. We don't have to like reinvent parenting and stuff like that. So a lot of parents like I think what they try to capture is this like, this whole like express yourselves type stuff where I think in our generation, more or less, it was, respect the elders type stuff where now like, you see it playing out where kids kind of run the show and some that with the parents because it's like parents a lot of times want to be friends with the kids. So I think that's what they were trying to capture with the extremes. But you do see a lot of that type of stuff where like kids are just running around where I just remember, man, as a kid, you couldn't even be in the same room as the parents where they was talking and stuff like that. So I think that's what they were trying to, capture with the extreme. So that's what I'm saying. It was a too far base because a lot of people's like kids be just like yelling out in public, and stuff like that. I forgot what place I was just at this weekend. And yeah, they're just like ripping and running and stuff where like back in the day, you'd be like hanging on to the cart, scared to look around and stuff. So, just totally different eras and stuff. So I think that's what they were trying to capture. And it makes sense because like, I think when you become a super old parent, man, you're just like burnt out a little bit because you don't have the energy. And so they be like bribing a kid and stuff like, hey, just go ahead, do your thing, and I'll try to accommodate that. So overall, I did think like the plot and storyline was great because I like how they captured the whole like dynamics, like the midlife crisis, and also I liked how they added the diversity in the cast where they all had their like different kind of upbringings, but they were still friends and stuff like that. They owned the business that added the whole like younger generation, like kind of bossing them guys around. So I like how that kind of played out too, where it's just like, okay, you're kind of having this in the workforce now where younger people are starting to enter the workforce, and our generation is like the ones kind of in that dynamic now where it's either like you're moving up or some people might bypass you. So I like how they had that like generational thing also with the whole parenting aspect. So yeah, overall I like the plot and the storyline. So all right, we'll go ahead and jump into the fourth question. What scenes are actress performances stuck out? And I'll go to Amazing first on that one.
I definitely thought it's funny because when I watch movies, honestly, a lot of times I'm doing other things. So I'll be listening. I might start, doing some work or something, but I'm still listening. So when I had heard it was because I can literally remember like looking at the TV screen when Mike was talking and he was like, "Oh, I'm telling you, all she wanted, I got these two, like he had two successful sons. I forget what schools they went to, but I remember it was like, well-known Ivy League type schools. And then he was like, I got the wife talking to the girlfriend, and like the girlfriend is gorgeous. And he was like, all she wants to do is like F and something else. I don't remember, but basically like she's like the best. And he was like, you found a unicorn, Mike. Oh, and because he was like, she doesn't want kids. And I thought honestly right away I was like, oh, he's the old dad. He's about to be the old dad. Because if you believe she's not gonna want to have a kid and she's not gonna end up pregnant on this show, this is where the delusion comes in when you hear people talk about this
I
stuff.
agree with that. Definitely.
So I don't know if they showed Bill Burr's wife, but then I had realized that okay, she was pregnant. But I still knew from the very beginning, like, oh, um, Mike's youngin is also about to make him an old dad because he is set up too good right now. He's set up too cushy for there not to be a kink in his life. So I thought that scene stuck out for sure. I thought the scene again where just the scenes with the crazy mom. What was I don't remember. Does anybody know her name or the husband's name?
Uh, I can't remember their names.
But when she was like in his face It was like super like, can you imagine seeing that? Like, I can't
His name was
imagine being this
Connor.
Connor, yes. So when Connor was like trying to make the boy apologize, and the wife came out like, what's why is he screaming? What's going on? And she kind of like snapped him to shut him down too. That was where again where I thought it was like an extreme. Like, yeah, I want my kid to express themselves, like, but not to the danger of other other children. So I thought that was hilarious, but I definitely thought it was just an extreme scenario, but I thought it was
It's
funny.
not extreme.
Have you ever seen you've never seen somebody do that in your
I
life?
mean, not that, but I'm saying, man, if you talk to like a lot of teachers and people in like I say in education, they'll tell you like what they got to deal with like children, and a lot of times like they'll contact the parents, and the parents are like, my kid won't do that, this and this. So it's almost like they're fighting the parents in them cases. So that's what I'm saying. Like it was extreme to the point where like, yeah, nobody's gonna allow their kid to hit anybody, but it's just like a lot of parents don't see no wrong in their kids nowadays. Where, like I said, just kind of relating back to us because we are in that like aging. Like, man, your parents got that phone call from the school, man. It was like you was coming home, you was in trouble. And nowadays, like they're it's almost like you're fighting both of them. And I hear this from a lot of people. So that's what I'm saying. It's really not like this scenario, yeah, but it's not extreme to the point where like the parents, like I said, they don't see no faults with their kids. And that's why I think like Bill Burr and them, like, of course they got to introduce humor, but they were trying to capture that like element.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think that like I would never ever be a teacher, and when you do hear them talk, most of the time it's the issues with the parents. I feel
Yeah.
like versus the actual children. It was to me, it was just like the disrespect of her, the blatant. I'm not saying that there's not disrespect, but just for that. But again, it was funny. It was a comedy, so I definitely got that. And I do think, I mean, to your point, it is a real life situation where some of these parents are literally ridiculous. And it even made me think. I can remember, um, when I mean, like 20 plus years ago, I knew a lady, and you could literally ask anybody in my family this, and they would know exactly who you were talking about. Where I remember seeing her coming, like pulling into our driveway, and me shutting all the curtains and telling people to be quiet because her kid was so naughty. I didn't want to put up with them, so I was like, let's just pretend like we're not here.
Damn.
So I definitely think, and you could ask people in my family, and I am willing to bet they would know exactly who you're talking about because they'll still laugh about how bad this kid was. So I think that's always been around. But to me, again, I'm just like, I don't care how cool we are. Like, you ain't coming to my house if your kid is that bad. I'm shutting the curtain and acting like I'm not home, and I'm not inviting you to the barbecue or birthday party.
She definitely gonna swing on you if she ever sees this. She's like,
She knows.
not my
She
kid.
knows.
I'm getting it.
She
Amazing.
knows her kid was terrible.
Nah.
But again, that's what I found funny about just the performances in general because it did take, like the real life, all these different real life scenarios and just kind of, joked on all of them. So I thought those scenes. I'm trying to think the other scene that I just thought stuck out to me. I did feel bad for Bill Burr at the end of the movie when he really did miss the childbirth of the baby. I thought that was kind of sad. Even with everything going on, I was like, dang, I kind of feel bad for him. But those are probably, I thought some of the scenes just from my perspective of like when the new young executive came in and fired all the older people right away. I was thinking, go on, people, you don't know what a lawsuit that is. You can be rich at this. Like I would have like started recording like, why are you firing me? Like secretly thinking, oh, please tell me it's because I'm old so I can sue you. But yeah, so again, I thought it was funny, going back to your point, because there's a lot of like younger bosses out there. So, I'm
Mm.
sure that it's a different dynamic. It's a whole different dynamic. So it was just like so many real life situations that they put a spin to. I enjoyed it, but it was funny. So there's a lot of scenes that stuck out, but those were some of them.
All right, Casey, Fred, what scenes or performances stuck out to you?
Um, one of the reasons why I like this movie is just because, like Amazing was saying, the old dads almost felt like a little club or a fraternity that they felt safe as long as they were together. And then it just seems like when they were on their own and they were by themselves, that's when they seemed like they were in more trouble than they could ever stand by themselves. And it was obvious, especially when they all got in a fight, because they got fired or whatever. Because once again, that one scene that stood out was when they was all in the car and did not know that they were being recorded, and their privacy was basically stripped away. And then when they get called in the office, they're seeing footage of themselves saying things that they thought was okay because they were, hey, it's just us. It's supposed to be just us. You're not supposed to be recording this. This is what we do. This is what we talk about. And it was recorded. And because of that, that's why they were being fired. And in that scene, a part that cracked me up so bad was the young guy that was in the back seat, and with Mike, and they start talking about, oh, you one of us, you one of us. Say, okay, well, what
Say the
about
word.
NWA? And then, how's your flow on NWA? Since you say you like that song, and he's like, okay, we'll do it now. Play the music right now. I want to hear it. And so he does it. He tries his best not to say the N word or whatever. But when they get called into the office and they get kicked out because of the Privacy Act, and they get escorted out by the little what do you call that? The I call it the mall squad or whatever. The little guys with the flashlights escort them out. The young guy is still there, and he says, "So yeah, so it's just you and me, man. It's just you and me." He's like, "No, no, I'm firing you," and he shows the footage of him in the kitchen. He's saying the N word left and right.
Yes.
He's like, "Yo, man, what is up? What's up?" And so that scene really cracked me up, and it really another scene that cracked me up is also Bill Burr's Jack, when he is all of a sudden trying to not only impress his family but acting like he's the man because he's the auctioneer, and he's all of a sudden gets caught up in his ego, and nobody wants to go higher than $3,000 to be able to put money in just to be able to have a 2-hour session with the principal. Nobody is feeling that whatsoever. And he's like, going once, going twice, final offer. I was like, how many numbers you gonna say? 2.7, 2.8? And next thing you know, he gets stuck. And this is after he got fired and doesn't have the money to be able to pay. Anyway, I don't even know why he did it, but his ego got the best of him. And then of course him and the principal end up arguing, and he's like, you know what, I'm not going to be like everybody else, I'm going to stand up to you. And the wife was like, well, we need her so that way, her recommendation, so our son can go to this private school. And he's like, no, what, forget it. And he makes a big scene. And then I guess the funniest thing that cracked me up is when he gets home, he's put out. And what's holding him from getting in the house? This little bitty chain or whatever that he has to break down or whatever to bump in there. And she was like, no, I need you to get out. And and the son comes in and he wakes up and he's like, so where's daddy going? Why is he leaving? Oh, daddy's got a lot to work on. Daddy's got a lot to work on. He's not going to be back for a while. And that was what she was trying to say in so many words. So the kid would understand that it's like, hey, I'm kicking him out. I've had enough. I can't deal with this any longer. And those are kind of some of the issues that all the old dads had to deal with. That it's like, hey, I want to stay in my zone. I want to stay where I am, but these other problems that kept arising kept all of a sudden making them like grow up, making them to all of a sudden push them to go where they really didn't feel comfortable or didn't want to go. And so those were some of the scenes. Another funny scene I thought was funny was when they end up Mike and Jack end up seeing each other, and they're not supposed to be getting along, not supposed to be talking or whatever, and they're both eating a burger at the same time. And they looked up and they're like, "Oh man, it's him." And then the next scene, you see them. Next thing you know, they're getting in the car, taking a trip, and their buddy Connor jumps in, and he's all stone and everything. And they're where they heading to, some casino or whatever. And it's just like, here it is. They were, and Connor was crazy anyway because he missed his friends so much. He's in a, what was it, the bathroom or whatever, over there trying to write little letters and stuff, and gets caught by his wife and tries to all of a sudden put, put the little letter to the flame or whatever, tried to destroy it real quick because she's so mean, and didn't want him talking to his little friends or whatever. And I know you keep saying amazing already thinking that's over the top, but
No, I was thinking that found it hilarious because I have an add on to something that you said. But finish first before I just have to add it on before before we move on.
But that just, I just basically, there was so many things that just confirmed that this was their little fraternity. There was their little club. They needed each other because that's how they got their little freedom to be able to be who they are, express how they really feel about life and in general, and in the same way they felt like they were in the same boat together. And there were so many scenes in there that just made it hilarious and funny for me. And so, like I said, I enjoyed it. So
Yeah, like one of the scenes that I would say that like that stuck out for me was the one scene where he was when they're at the school and he had to like say apologize to everybody. He just kind of snapped. I thought that was funny because I would have probably snapped on that too because I would have been in that whole situation. I thought it was kind of messed up. Like his wife like would just make him go with the flow so they could stay at school because I feel like man she should have been riding with her husband. So I definitely would have been like cussing everybody out of that school. I would be like, hey, this is a wrap. I'm going off. So I thought that whole scene was like very funny and stuff. And then I thought, what was the other scene? The one that Amazing was talking about where Mike in the beginning, he was like outlining everything and it just looked perfect. But yeah, I was just like, something's going to go wrong and stuff. So that was definitely like a pivotal scene. But what the other scene I liked with the one guy, Connor, when he was like, they were at that like little dance or whatever like that function. And he was like putting up his thumb and then she saw him and then he started acting like he was dancing. So I thought that was funny.
yeah,
Because his wife definitely had him in check. So yeah, my man was like scared to death of her.
yeah.
And then, like, the one where Mike kind of started collapsing, I thought that was a pretty good performance because like what Amazing saying, like, not just the scenes, but just his like arch. Because at the beginning of the movie, you're like, oh damn, like he's got it made. Like typical, like Amazing was saying, a lot of guys look at it like that, like, oh man, I'm living life. I got this vasectomy and stuff, and then things just went out of when they were like talking to him, like, hey man, just look at it, like, man, you just got a super sperm or something like that. So they were trying to hype him up. He just looked crushed, like, man, what the hell happened? Like he was just like crushed. So like I like how they had that arc where he probably got it the worst out of everything because he was like thinking he was kind of like looking down at them like, man, well y'all hang in there. I got it made. So I liked how they had that little spin on it.
Yes.
That's
So
what
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it was funny you said that because I definitely think that because at least Bill Burr's character, he already had like another little son. You know what I mean? So like he was in he was in like the parenthood mode for several years, no matter what. But Mike's character, I was like, oh my gosh, that would be some rough stuff right there. But then again, that's where to me, like the delusion came in, especially to have a young, beautiful woman and be like, she doesn't want kids. Like, come on, dude. Like, I know you're not that dumb. You knew right away, like she was going to be the one. But I was thinking, to add on to Fred's points, there's a couple of scenes just that I wanted to add on to. Was one when Bill Burr, his ego did let him like get the, when he's the 3,000. But I was thinking for that poor pregnant wife, I would have like smashed somebody's toe or pretended my water broke or something to end end that to be like, I gotta jump on somebody's toes so they make a peep and they're the next one in line. And if that don't work, I'm gonna act like my water broke because we ain't paying that 3 grand. And then the other thing was when they were in the car, it's funny because I do feel like men, obviously of all ages, will come up with like the most ridiculous scenarios to be like when they were like, "What would you choose between" I forget the scenarios they gave, but it was just ridiculous.
That was
Where
hilarious.
no, I was gonna say it was funny, but what's even again going back to like this is real life stuff because I don't want to point out anybody. But I know like my spouse will be like, "What would you do if?" And it's just like the most ridiculous scenario ever.
Hold on,
It's
you say
like,
your spouse? You want to point out nobody?
no, but it's funny. It's funny scenarios, but it's like scenarios that like, what would you do if like the dog was like FUB? Like it's never gonna happen. Like why
It
would
could. He could become mutated and cuss you out. So
but I thought it was funny because it shows like there's just like such a vast difference of like men's conversations to women's conversations. And so to me, it's just like funny. Like this is really what they talk about. Like these most bizarre, off the wall topics, inappropriate 100%. And they all get a good chuckle and laugh out of it. So I thought it was funny, and I was like, this obviously goes on forever in their conversations.
yeah, we know how to have fun. We know how to like it's like de-stressors. You know, you get to like play this out. So yeah, we do be having conversations. But yeah, that was funny. But all
Yeah, I
right,
mean, I
what's
do
up?
think it's funny.
Oh, go ahead.
It was just it was funny, but it's just like so random. It's like, what? So anyways, yeah.
So before I get Manic in here, you don't like my scenarios? Amazing.
No, I think they're funny. I think the scenarios are funny. I just also feel like this all men apparently talk about random unrealistic scenarios as conversation.
All right. All right, the Manic Genius. Let me pull the rating slide up real quick. So what did you have as the rating for this movie?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So y'all can hear me good?
Yeah, we can hear you good. Please stop
All right,
screaming in the
all
mic.
right. I got it. I got it in a 7.2.
Okay.
So
So
overall rating,
Manic
very
got it in a
good
very good
category.
territory. That's where I was with
Yeah.
it. So why did
So
you
what'd you have it?
rate it at 7.2?
Um, I felt overall the movie did what it was supposed to do because it was funny. Um, so the movie, I felt like the movie was funny. I felt like the plot, the storyline was all on point. It showed different dynamics. There was a little bit of it was just overall. It started off really hot for me, and then it kind of like the middle was good, and then I just felt like the ending, just it was just okay at the end.
Yeah, that's what.
I feel like the comedy came on really strong, and I thought it was going to stay strong like that throughout the whole movie. In the middle, the comedy kind of died a little bit, uh, and then at the end, it wasn't really that funny. Um, but I think it was an overall solid movie, and yeah, I think it was an overall solid movie, and it got across like the different issues you go through if you have children at an older age.
Yeah, definitely. So what scene stuck out to you? We'll catch you up real quick before we jump into the fourth question. What scenes or performances stuck out to you, Manic?
Well, I liked amazing. You mentioned the scene where the kid is like being bad, and like you see the completely different parental styles. So that was like a big scene, a major scene that stuck out because it kind of laid the foundation for the different, uh, just a very different parenting style that I think you would see commonly with younger people, where they're like not disciplining their kid. They're trying to do like the overly sensitive thing, and like, and then it's like, hey, you're gonna raise a maniac. Like you gonna raise, you know, I mean, the kid was just off the walls, and so that scene stuck out. And then the scene that I think Fred mentioned, um, where he's like writing a letter in the bathroom. It's like, what's he doing? He's like writing a letter, and then he hears a sound, and then he just crumbles it up, puts it in his mouth, like burns it, flushes it in the toilet. Like he's doing the most because he doesn't have the balls to stick up to his wife. And I just found that hilarious. I'm like, I think that's an extreme case, but it's comedy, so you definitely want to showcase that. So I think they did a really good job, especially with that scene. And then the scene I think you mentioned, Jerk, with he's giving the apology speech, and like he's like, oh wow, this is what I have to do, and he's doing a good job of giving the speech. And then one girl's like, the C word is like using the N word. And he's like, oh yeah, I can see that, except for the 400 years of slavery and the additional years of oppression, a systemic oppression. Like, but yeah, totally the same. It's like, and then his joke when he was like, I'm sorry, 10 of you heard it and told the other 60 about it. So I was just like, that shit was hilarious. I thought about it. I was just like, wow. That's like the perfect response. It's like, you weren't even here, like, but you just heard about it, but I'm apologizing to you anyway. Yeah. So I thought that was cool. And then obviously the whole Mike situation where he's living the high life, and then all of a sudden it's like pregnancy and marriage, like all these things that like he found the unicorn. It's just like, hey, shit is never as good as it seems to be. So, young girl was playing the long game. I wouldn't be surprised if she was taking like some in vitro type stuff to like make herself extra fertile.
All right, we'll go ahead and jump into the fourth question because I do got a take on that where I'm gonna touch up on that. So, if you were the director or producer of this movie, what would you change or do differently? And we'll start with Amazing first.
I would have like I said, I think it was a little vulgar for just in general what I watched, but I also think it probably needed it just because of the character. So I don't think I necessarily would have changed that. I thought the stripper scenes were a lot. I mean, I didn't think we need that much of the stripper scenes. I would have changed that, I guess. And maybe
that was art. That was art.
The other thing is maybe potentially I would have let Bill make it right in the nick of time to see the baby born. I thought for the movie and the characters, I don't necessarily think there honestly was anything I really would have changed, just because I felt like the characters did well considering what the movie kind of was about, with bringing in kind of that vulgar humor into real life situations. So I can't necessarily say I would have changed anything. Those were just scenes that I was like, did we really need all of that? But yeah, that was it.
All right, Casey, Fred, what would you change or done different?
I don't know why, but she said that the men were extreme, but the women were very extreme as well. Because I give you a good example, Amazing, before you start shaking your head.
No, I was just saying, I think the women were extreme, but the men were delusional.
Okay, because like take for instance, the men would fight, right? And most of the time, even from the last movie we saw, whatever, uh, most men, once we get it out off our chest or whatever, we're good. We're back to being boys. And this, here you could tell, even with the fellas, um, it was just like Connor was over there writing notes. You know what I'm saying? Mike and Jack, they wanted to be mad, but as soon as they saw each other eating a burger across the way, they're back to being boys again. It was just the next scene, boom, we're in the car, we rolling, and that's what guys do. But on the women, they have this big old argument or whatever, and then the next thing you know, they see each other and ring their doorbell. Girl, I just want to apologize. Oh, it was no big deal. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's
Yeah,
never that
it
easy.
was a big deal.
it never, it's never. Hey, there should need to be a little bit more time, or somebody should be consulting or referee between them or something. But it's never like that. So I just thought it was way, you know, the two were just way different. I would have definitely have changed that part. Uh, I guess the only other thing I thought was also that principle was just, I felt like was way out of hand. I mean, I know Jack had a serious ego, but I mean, I felt like she was the female version in so many ways
Yeah,
of
I
him,
agree with that.
and it was just like she wouldn't even just accept his apology. She felt like she had to prove a point that she won. Like, she was just as competitive as he was. And so, but as far as director or as far as changing anything, I don't think I would change pretty much of anything because the comedy is what kind of brought everything together. It also made you realize that these guys, had some growing up to do, especially for them to be able to be men of this age and having to do fatherhood and raise these kids that they had to grow up themselves. And so um, I think for the most part, I probably would have just left it as it is. So
All right, I'll go ahead and give my take real quick on what I would change or do differently in this movie. And the one thing I would change was with Mike, where like, because I think how he had the vasectomy and all that, like if he didn't end up being the father, I thought that would have been a funny spin, like where it just didn't work out for him. Like he he got that reality check. Like as at first he'd be like, "Oh man, I am the father," but he got the paternity test. It is like you're not the dad or something like that. I thought that would have been a funny spin. So that would probably been the only thing I changed, and maybe some of this stuff because I do agree with Manic, where at the end it was just like, it just kind of lost some of the humor. So like I said, maybe not too much of the strip club scenes, but kind of get to the point where like they resolve some of the issues with their wives and stuff, how they kind of like manage stuff, and maybe they got a piece of the company back because the other guy got fired too or something like that. So I would have made those changes. And then we'll go to Manic on his. If you were the director or the producer of the movie, what would you change or do differently?
I think you actually wrapped it up with. I would have just showed like some resolution towards the end with everybody's situation. Like, um, I do like that spin that you said. He finding out that Mike finding out that the kid is actually not his because he did have a vasectomy. That would make the most sense. Uh, um, yeah, but yeah, just finding resolution because everybody had like an issue with their situation as an older dad, and I think I would have made Bill Burr's wife. I would have made her a little bit more understanding because at the end of the day, she knew who she married. So for her flipping out on him and like, hey, you got to live somewhere else type thing until you figure it out, I would have changed that whole scenario.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The one other scene, just to add, I thought that stuck out, that nobody else mentioned, was I did like the stripper scene when Mike wanted to stay and Bill Burr's character was like, no, come on, like this ain't you, let's go. I felt like that was kind of a testament just to like their friendship. Like, come on, like you you've been drinking way too much. It's time to leave. So I did like that scene also.
Yeah, because we were actually covering that in our the other show that we were talking about. I was like, man, a lot of times guys, they got, if they are good friends, they're not gonna allow their like friends to kind of spiral out of control like that. So I agree with you on that. That was a pretty good scene that showed that they were looking out for each other and stuff like that. So
Now, I mean, I definitely feel like it was a bad decision on all of their parts to even go there, but to make a positive out of the negative,
yeah,
that was
yeah, but they were
it was
they were definitely
clever.
dealing with some stuff, some issues, man. Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, they're probably not the best place to go, but yeah, they definitely had to vent, lose, because a lot of stuff just happened. Losing the business, getting fired.
Well, I
My
think
man spent the last bit of his money, so it was just like, it was like a recipe for disaster. So
the other thing though I thought was funny is aside from Brittany, which was I think that was Mike's baby mom
yeah,
that he ended up having, they were old moms too. Like it wasn't just old dads. Like I think they were old dads, but the wives didn't look like spring chickens either. Like I mean they looked good for them, but they weren't young like Brittany. So I mean it was kind of like old moms and dads.
yeah,
So
no, that's
even though it
true.
was focused on the dads, of course, but aside from Brittany, like they were all old to be having babies, I thought. I mean, just that was my opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
But you
But we'll
trying to
go
say
ahead.
old women can't have babies?
I mean, they can if they want to be miserable at 65. Go ahead. But I mean,
Now
if
you,
you think about it, like
now
these
you,
people were. Go ahead, Martin or
no,
Manic. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you got a good point though, because I mean she was old, and then he came from the strip club or whatnot, and the baby all healthy. She had no complications. She didn't even look like she broke a sweat.
Well, and that's because I'm like, again, if the guys were basically around 50, I'm like, you're gonna be 70 when your kid is 20.
Hmm.
So I mean, just thinking of it that way, I'm like, to me, it's honestly almost selfish to have a kid at that age because if you take the average lifespan into consideration, you're gonna be dead before your kid's 25. Like, is that really fair to a 25-year-old?
Great point.
Amazing, you about to get canceled.
Yeah, I'm like, shut her down.
Well, since you can only find me here. I'm just saying, if you people want to be chasing around a toddler in your 50s, have at it. But I don't see I don't see the fun in that personally, but anyhow.
Nah, but I mean, you do got a good point because I know I mentioned it before. It's like, man, almost like when you hit a certain age, man, like each year that kid has a birthday, man, like that's just a reminder, like that Grim Reaper is coming. It's like, man, you give a birth to a timeline where you have a kid in your 50s, like, damn, 10-year-old birthday, you're hitting a certain age. So yeah, just energy wise, man. Like I think me and Manic was talking about it the other day. I was like, man, when you hit your 40s, man, your body it changes. So I could imagine. That's one thing I did want to ask y'all. Hold on, let's go to the rating real quick. The last one question, and we'll jump into that like a little discussion. So now that you heard the other perspectives, would you change your score or keep it the same? And I'll go to the Manic Genius on that first.
Yeah, I was actually listening for a little while. Now I'm keeping mine the same.
Okay, then. All right, Casey, Fred, you staying the same? Or are you changing?
Same.
All right, amazing. You
I'm
changing
gonna say the
yours?
same. I'm gonna say the same also.
All right. I think I'll change mine a little bit. I'll go up a little higher. I'll go to like 7.5. Still in very good, but kind of hearing some of the scenes, hearing them again, it did have me chuckling. So yeah, 7.5. All right. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump into, like I said, the discussion. So could you guys have
Actually,
like,
one sec. I'll go up a little bit just because again, I think it did a good job at the delusional man scenario. I don't see that often.
here you go with these biases again.
So I'm gonna pop up by 0.5.
So what you going up to?
I think I was at 6 at first. I'll go to 6.5.
Okay. Did you factor in the female like over the topness?
I mean, I think that's common. Like, there's a whole bunch of female over the top movies, but the delusional man is hard to find, and they did a good job with Mike. So I'm gonna have to push that to 6.5.
So why is he so delusional? Just the way like how he thought everything was gonna work out? You're saying?
How I think how he thought everything was gonna work out. How I'm pretty sure he thinks Brittany is gonna not look at his sons as more attractive than him in the next 5 years. I mean, they're successful young men closer to her age than he is. And then the part to me again that just like topped it off with the delusion when he did finally like kneel to propose to her, and she was like, "Not here." I was just like, "That's what you get, dude." Like any other, like a decent woman your old age, or like within your own age range, she would have been happy with that. But you already know you're trying to marry somebody that is out of your league, sir. Like, she's too young for you. She's gonna want your sons, and now you're gonna have to take her to Ruth Chris and pay for your sides extra, aside from the steak, so you can have. I
If
just
y'all
thought it was.
don't put two and two together, Amazing's pretty cheap.
I'm just saying. I don't feel like it's necessary to pay for sides separately if I buy a steak, but that's my opinion. But I gave him, to me, I was like, that's a little taste of what you're gonna have in the future, Mike, and you deserve it because you're delusional. After she divorces you and gets her child support. But I mean, that's a whole other
You
situation.
turning up today. Yeah, you definitely get. Nah, but I mean that is a good point because yeah, a lot of dudes they be looking at that like it's a fairy tale, and it's just like, man, that's a lot of upkeep, because like you
Especially when
mentioned,
you have young, good-looking, successful sons that are closer to your wife's age than you are. Come on. Come on.
yeah, I couldn't do it. But like you said, I mean, there's definitely delusion on that. I totally agree. Like I said, a lot of people do try to convince themselves like that's all right, but it's just like I think you got it. You need to get somebody in your range because them expectations are gonna wear you out. But let me
Now,
ask y'all: could you imagine being a parent in their age group? Could you ever do it like in your 50s, or even I'll say like 45 to 50s? Y'all shaking your head. Amazing, Fred. You wouldn't want no
absolutely
part.
not.
Nah,
Man, can you do it like in your 45s and 50s, like start from scratch like they were in the movie?
it's the energy level, man. I couldn't do that. What there should be a thing called retirement. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
yeah, gotta let that go. So I think that's one of the reasons why there's so many guys I know play golf because come on, man. Once you put them out, they should be out. Don't let them back in.
No, I
To
agree.
me,
Yeah.
it's not it's like the little kid version of that. Because I honestly, like, I love like little babies. Like, I like holding them for a little while, and when they start crying, I like to give them back. Like, it starts to annoy me. So it's just like the patience level is so different, I think. Um, to me, again, I don't mind older people, like teenagers, honestly. Like, I don't mind if they're around for a little while as long as they don't talk to me too much. But I think there comes a point when you're just used to like quiet time or like adult time, where again I think Bill Burr's character was different because he started off with little kids, right? So you're in that situation. But when you see, again, going back to Mike's character, when you have grown children and then a baby is put in the mix, to me that's just like such, like, that's a super life-changing event to me versus, you just have a couple little kids because you started at that point. So to me that's a whole different scenario versus, I have everything set up, and then let me drop this baby in. I just couldn't. And like I said, I know somebody actually who has grown children, who is a grandparent and also has a toddler, and I could not
Mm.
imagine that life.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I couldn't even think about it. I don't even want grandkids. So that's how real it is with me. Like I don't even like kids for over 5 minutes, man. So
Now,
yeah, I
I
don't.
definitely want grandkids, but not anytime soon.
Mm.
I don't think you guys have a choice in the matter, you know.
Oh, I got a choice. I might just up and leave. Like if there's too many grandkids around and they over like a consistent basis, I'm like, you know what? I gotta dip out of here.
But it's I think people just don't realize, like, it's funny when you get set, because I know, like, the jerk has even said, like, you don't even wanna get up and take a dog out, let alone get up to take care of a baby. That's true. I mean, there's a lot, I think people just put themselves in the situation.
Well,
So that's where it's just crazy to me.
I think your temperament changed the older you get because they showed that scene where um, Jack was going, he was going off while he was in the car, the vehicle, and it just showed his age. The older you get, people
Yep.
just he got cut off or whatever, and he's just in the neighborhood. It wasn't like he was on the highway or something, but he got cut off and he was just going off. And then he has the window down. He looks at two guys that are standing there, which happen to be neighbors, and he says, "I mean, hey, am I wrong here?" And they both look at him like,
Like,
"Yes."
Yeah, that was
yeah.
funny. Well,
That was
I do
funny.
think like when people get older, I think there's that element of like you don't have the energy. So I think like a lot of older parents kind of like buy off their kids, like, hey, here's some money. That's where like you get these unruly kids and stuff. So I think that's happening more and more. But I just also think for your relationship where kind of like you were saying, Frederick, you should be going towards like retirement or like finally you don't raise your kids. You do got some grandkids maybe, but that's on a like a limited like basis where you and your significant other could start like enjoying each other. You're going on cruises and stuff. And I think, man, by resetting that clock, man, it's like you just miss out on that. Especially like if you had kids like earlier, then I see some people that would have like a huge gap and start over. So it's just like, man, it's like you never get that adult time to a certain degree. So yeah, I think you're kind of setting your ways when you start hitting your 40s and stuff. So yeah, I just couldn't imagine it. Hey,
Mhm.
I give a thumbs up to people that's doing it. So man, you think you could do it in your 40s and 50s?
I mean, maybe in my 40s, but definitely not in my 50s. Only because, like, amazing to the point amazing had, which when my kid would be 25, I would be in my 70s. So just like I would definitely want to be there to see my kid, hit his 30s and just see how like where he's at in life. Because I think that just like that would be a great thing to see. So, but as far as like energy with the toddler, I don't know. I'm not 40 yet, but I mean, I got my little toddler. I'm running around with him. It is a lot sometimes, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I got
Yeah,
the
I just think you
got
gotta, you can't, you can't, you're not there yet. But when you factor in, like, because your body's just gonna change, so I don't think people think that out because they just look at it from a present perspective, where it's like, hey, I'm good now, but I used to
yeah.
think the same, and I hit the gym regular, but my body definitely still slowed up. So
I do think people though that like I always say like if you're gonna have kids, to me it's better to group them somewhat together, not necessarily back to back, but with definitely within a couple years because there's just like such big age gaps when like you might have one kid in daycare and one in school or I think that just also plays a role where if the kids are somewhat coupled together, you're doing a lot of the same stuff. So going back to Bill um Burr's character is a lot of those kids were so close in age. They're, you're kind of sticking in with that habit versus, okay, you think you're home free and then, we're
Yeah.
starting all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, my man was about to cry.
So uh, how far do you is the biggest age gap you should have? I mean, from your perspective.
From my perspective, I think anything more than 5 years is going to be a lot. Not that it can't be done. I just think it's going to be such big changes. Again, if you have a baby, you have a brand new baby, but then at 5, you have a kid that's also starting like kindergarten. I think they start kindergarten. I don't remember what age you do what, but you're getting into that type age range. Where if you have, kids that are 2 to 3 years apart, they can kind of, I feel like, play with each other, keep each other company. You're doing a lot of the same things. From my perspective, I mean, I don't have that kids close together, but I feel like that's what I see when you see little kids a lot of times, or kids close in age, when they start to get older, they're both going to football practice together or this practice and that practice together. You're not trying to, one kid you're picking up from daycare while you're trying to drop off the other kid at football practice. Like that just seems like a lot when there are those larger gaps.
Yeah, no,
I
that
could
makes
be
sense.
totally wrong on that. Again, I don't have that situation, but that's just what it feels like I see.
No, I mean, you talk to a lot of people. They are burnt out because, like you said, the logistics. I mean, especially if you're like, you want your kids in events. Because I got like a friend. He's going through it now because he was like telling me, he was like, "Man, I think you're on to something with the one kid because they got like a little bit of a gap, but one's in soccer, the other one's in like his daughter, I think, is like in gymnastics. So he's like, man, we got to shoot over on this side of town. We got to go on this other side. So, we got to divvy everything up. So he was like, just telling me like how his days work. Cause, both of them are working too. So he's just like, hey, man, I got to shoot over here. She shoots over there. And then, we try to be fair. So we flip flop. I'm like, dang, So
Well, and
like you
then
said,
and like little kids when they first start school, and this to me has always been the case. I mean, it was 20 years ago. You have to be at the bus stop for little like kindergarten and first grade, I think, or they don't let your kid off the bus. Like there has to be an adult waiting for them at the bus stop.
yeah, I think it's still like
So
that.
if you have a big gap, then you're trying to work out if you work, which most people do. You're trying to work out your work schedule where like, hey, I need to be in late depending on what time this bus comes. But then if I have an older kid that's in sports, they go to school early, so they get out early and they need a ride, but then I'm also trying to get off early. So I just think it brings in a whole bunch of other complications when you have those gaps.
No, I never think about stuff like that. That's why I'm saying I did want to have this conversation, but to circle back where you was talking about like when people do have a kid at like I'll say older age, and like you was mentioning, like by the time you hit a certain age, that kid, by the time they turn 25, you're in their 70s, and my mom passed away like a few years ago, so I did get like at least to 40 years with her, but like you said, I mean, if you have your kids older in life, man, you are running that risk of like, because like you said, the average age for people like dying and stuff like that is around that certain age. So yeah, I never really thought about it until you said that, because this is like that would be pretty traumatic to like a younger adult when they're like going through like, trying to rise through the ranks at work and stuff like that. And then, that event happens where, because like I said, me being 40, man, it definitely had an impact on me, so I could have just imagined like 20 more years, when you're trying to go through life, and, I wouldn't have been that established where, taking time off and stuff like that to kind of regroup. So I think that was a good point. So
Yeah, and that's honestly even because when I think about that and like how hard that was, even still at a very young age. Um, but I mean, yeah, imagine going through that in like your early 20s, or like in healthcare, like having conversations when you're asking a 19-year-old, like, what do you want to do about your parent? Are we stopping care? Are we going? You know what I mean? Those conversations are terrible to have with young people. I mean, so whole different spin on a funny movie, but something
yeah,
to think
no, but
about
I
if
mean,
you.
I think comedy sometimes like that's why I like Bill Burr, because his comedy style, he introduces a lot of like real life events, and I think comedy sometimes gets the conversation started. So I mean, it does highlight that some of that stuff, and then some of the difficulties that, like I say, older people that do have kids are going through. So, you know, maybe people could have some compassion. Like, hey, man, maybe we do need to help people out a little bit.
Mhm.
What was you about to say, Manic?
Oh no, I was just agreeing, like how comedy allows you to bring some truths and start and you know, either start the conversation or bring up an interesting point that, you know, maybe you can't just bring up just through normal dialogue because it's possibly offensive, but through comedy, you know, you can poke fun at it. So I was just agreeing on that point.
No, absolutely. So does anybody have anything else to jump in here? Fred, you gonna be working on some kids?
No,
Fred said,
no, no.
Fred said, not at all.
No, but I
Fred
think
said you
you
got 2 more on
guys
the
made
way.
some good. There's no more Magic Mike in me, bro. Yeah.
You know, it's funny you said that last time. I mean, because I'm still like in an age range where, like, technically, if I go to the doctor, they might still be like, I need you to take a pregnancy test. And I remember last time I went, and I was like, you better come back with a defibrillator if something's with that test, because I'm telling you right now, I'm about to drop to the floor dead. You will have to shock me. uh, just because, like, I'm just like low or D. I again could not imagine. But yeah, I sure did. She just slapped at me. I'm like, I'm serious. If something comes back in that pee, like, come back here and shock me because I'll be on the floor.
As will I. I would definitely cry for like 10 days. I was like, oh. But nah, we'll go ahead and this is definitely a good movie. Great breakdown, and I think a good discussion also, because I think that's important, man. Sometimes there's messages in movies, so definitely liked what Bill Burr did on this one. Hall of Fame comedian. So we'll go ahead and do our outros and stuff. So amazing. Any parting words? Not even gonna ask you where we can find you at.
Here?
Yeah.
No, just the parting words is I agree with even what Manic and you both said is it was a good comedy, but real life stuff on don't be delusional, don't be extreme on both sides. The women in this were extreme but funny. Sometimes the men were delusional. And think ahead. If be an old dad if you want to, be an old mom if you want to, but please think about 20 years from now. And how old those little babies are. If you're an old dad now, you're going to be an elderly dad when they're a high schooler.
Yeah, it's like the Golden Girls. They were like
Yeah.
damn near old my whole life. But all right, Casey, Fred, any parting words and anything else you want to throw in there?
It's a good movie. Everybody should definitely check it out. There's a lot of good laughs. I felt like it was a lot of life lessons for young and for old, and for anyone that actually wants to have kids. I thought that was really good. And then you can find me on IG, Twitter, Facebook, and once again, I just want to give a quick shout out to my Super Bowl Chiefs real quick and Germany
Lord.
real quick. One more time, you know, Frankfurt and stuff. They got a couple more games that's supposed to be coming up this Sunday. So check that out, NFL. I'm trying to get some sponsorships for us. So we're going to see.
I'm about to hit up the Chiefs, man. I'm about to hit him up. I'm just going to write him like, man, look at these videos. My man, Fred is definitely repping y'all. He pulled out the championship belt.
Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely check us out, man, because we're doing good stuff over here. I love what we're doing over here. I'm glad to be a part of it.
I appreciate you, man. We love having you too. All right, Manic Genius. Parting words, and why is that cop behind you, man?
Yeah, man. I mean, there should be a cop because these cars out here, man, don't know how to drive.
Is it them or could it be you, like weaving in and out of traffic?
Nah, man, I'm not even doing no weaving. It's just everybody's driving everybody's doing like the speed limit. This is crazy.
Isn't that what they supposed to be doing? Isn't that like the law, if I'm not mistaken?
You got to do at least 10 over.
10 over.
That's cruising speed. If
Can
you're
you
in a
give us
rush,
your license plate number?
Nah, good movie, good movie, good movie. I'm just gonna add one more scene that I think somebody covered it, but when the young guy, when they were like, "Oh, you gotta go, you're fired too," he's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, we got you on camera," and he plays it, and it's like that Trinidad James. It's like gold all in my watch,
Yeah.
gold all in my chain. Don't believe me, just watch it, nigga. Because I think that's so real. It's like they captured that moment. It's like, hey, even this guy who's like super woke on like what's offensive, it's like, hey, behind closed doors, just like everybody else, you know, he's just pouring his cereal, just doing it so comfortably.
That's
That
true.
was hilarious. Um, but yeah, you can find me on Manic Sophistication. I'm here on IG, the Manic Genius. Follow me, comment, let us know what movie y'all want us to watch, review. I think somebody sent me a movie, so I have to send that to you, Jerk. I did
Okay.
get a notification. Um, but yeah, tune into the show. We got plenty more. Manic
All
out.
right. Yeah, just like Manic said, definitely tune into the channel. We're definitely going to be expanding out soon and doing different things. We're probably going to start doing more like lives also, along with the recordings and stuff. So like I said, stay tuned in. I'll try to keep people updated on that. And like Manic said, definitely reach out to us. Let us know if y'all come across some like good movies that, you know, didn't hit the theaters and stuff like that, where we could showcase more of the independent films also. Cause I think a lot of times, a lot of people, when I see them doing reviews, they're just doing like the blockbusters. And to me, I think there's like a lot of good movies out there that don't hit maybe like the movie theaters that, you know, we should showcase and, you know, give credit to, especially if they're like good movies, and also give us some bad ones, man. Like, you know, that we could review also. So yeah, just reach out, hit up Manic, myself, and I always keep the information at the end of the videos. But I like the way how we try to break these down and pull out what the plot, some of the storylines we might think we might be way off, but hey, you know, it's everybody's interpretation of what goes on in the movie. But just yeah, keep tuning in. But all right, peace. We'll let y'all go. Have a good day. Bye.
You too. See ya.